Good morning and welcome to the CABE webinar Wednesday. Today we're looking at the Masterclass in specifying safe design principles, smoke, access, fire and escape with Stan Winfield from Shorespan Limited. This RIBA-approved webinar is aimed at providing a detailed understanding of safe, realistic access solutions around a hatch or when accessing areas within and externally around the building. It will also cover current regulations surrounding the use of natural smoke ventilation to be positioned on the roof, how they work and design possibilities. My name is Shanika and I am the Training and Learning Administrator here at CABE and I'll be acting as moderator for this morning's session. We strive to create interactive webinars, so we do encourage you to submit any questions you may have during the session. These questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation and we'll get through as many as possible. If we do run out of time, we will collect any questions and send out the answers in due course. You can also contact us at webinars@cbuilde.com. If you're watching us live, you can use the side panel to send in your questions. Alternatively, you can get in touch with us via the social links now on screen. With over 15 years of experience in the roof access industry, Stan first entered the construction sales sector back in 1980 and has wealth of knowledge and technical expertise when it comes to specifying safe building access solutions. Stan's refreshing approach and sought-out guidance will support many decision makers and specifiers looking to understand more when identifying safe design practices for making building access and escape safer. Away from work, Stan enjoys spending his time at a golf club, captain, and being with his family and grandchildren. So if you give me a moment, I'll pass over to Stan and he'll begin shortly. Okay, Stan, so you can now share your screen.
Okay. I haven't got any controls for some unknown reason.
If you go to the bottom of the screen,
oh, there we go. A very good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name's Stan Winfield, as you've already seen, and we're going to look today at specifying safe design principles, smoke, access, fire, and escape. Just to start, just to let an insight into Shorespan. The company has been in operation over 35 years, and we're based over in the West Midlands. We have our factories over there, and from those bases, we manufacture roof access hatch, smoke ventilators, and various other products, which we distribute throughout the world, as you'll see here. Prestigious projects, probably the highest roof access hatch in the world at the moment. So, Shorespan, how do we look and preserve the climate and the environment that we live in? So, we're trying to reduce the amount of plastic usage within our products and also within the packaging and ancillary items as we move along. 90% of the aluminium we use comes from recycled materials. So as the saying goes, you drink your Coke can and 6 weeks later it could be in a roof access hatch or the wing of a jumbo jet. We're investing in more efficient production processes, so ways of manufacturing products that use less resources from the world. And we're partnering to plant trees and other carbon reducing initiatives. So every product that is sold, a tree is planted somewhere in the world. We are ISO 14001 and also ISO 9001 registered. So the position is obviously we're looking at the way that we handle the environment going forward. So first of all, let's have a look today. What we're going to look at is the design and specification of access hatches, understanding safe ladder specification, gain an insight into smoke regulations in relation to EN 12101, design and specification of glazed units, and the design and specification of floor doors. So first things, floor and roof access hatches are used to access plant or equipment. either in the basements or up on the roofs to carry out essential maintenance within the building. It's worth noting at this point that roof access hatches should not be used as any part of a fire strategy, other than that as a secondary means of escape. So if you've got a plant room on the roof with a stairway in, then obviously you can use a roof access hatch somewhere else on the roof to provide you with the safe secondary means of escape. When designing roof access hatches, we also need to look at the following documentation: working at heights regulation, document part B of the building regulations, and the building amendment regulations of 2018. So let's get into it, and we'll start looking at the design and specifying of a roof access hatch. So here we see a typical sort of roof access hatch that you probably see. First sort of question is, what type of lid do you require? Do you want a solid lid, like the picture, or are you looking for glass or a polycarbonate dome? So these options are all there for you. What type of seal should you use? Obviously, the seal's got to be sufficiently good to make it airtight, waterproof, all those sorts of things. So an important part of the unit. Is the hatch thermally broken? There are a lot of manufacturers out there today that still don't use a thermally broken product. And if your hatch isn't thermally broken, then the issue is you're going to get condensation within inside the building. What sort of finish do you require? Polished aluminium is the standard finish these days for a lot of manufacturers. But obviously powder coating is available, as you see here, with a different color on the inside to the outside, if that's what you require. Or stainless steel. Stainless steel may be required in an area where it could be food production, or maybe a lot of salty sea air, that sort of thing, if there's a corrosive environment. What sort of locking mechanisms are you looking at? So standard would be to use a padlock, but as we'll look, there is different options available to you. Do you require any additional handles on the inside of the lid? On a smaller unit, possibly not, but if you've got a larger unit where you're coming up a staircase, then it may be advisable to have a handle to assist you to continue the handrail from the wall up on the inside of the lid. Do you require manual, electric, or hydraulic opening? Majority would go out as manual, but as you get a larger unit, you maybe want to electrically operate it, makes it easier to use, and hydraulic opening if you've got a very large, maybe commercial type access hatch on the roof. Upstand, what sort of upstand would you require? As standard, we do a 300mm upstand, but it may well be if you've got a lot of insulation on the roof that you want a higher upstand, or you maybe want a shorter. And is the hatch fitted with a curb liner? There's still a lot of manufacturers out there that do not fit curb liners as standard, which the Shorespan product will arrive on site ready to be fitted on the roof. It's fully welded up, complete and waterproof, ready to go. Additional things we may need to consider would be the acoustic rating. You may require a gate or acoustic rating. You may have an acoustic rating that's been given to you, in which case then the unit can be manufactured to suit that. And also one of the big topics of the day is the fire rating. And these units can be manufactured up to 4-hour fire rating, depending upon obviously the situation. And again, a similar sort of thing with the floor doors when we get to floor doors. It's important when we look at a roof access hatch that we specify the correct size. And this will be determined by the type of ladder that you're expecting to use and whether the required access is then suitable for the project's needs and usage. So obviously you're not going to use a fixed vertical ladder if you're expecting people to carry equipment up. So the breakdown into the different areas of ladder access: 750 by 900, 900 by 900, and a meter by a meter. Plant access: 1200 by 1200 and 1500 by 750. So this area, we're not expecting personnel to actually go through the access hatch. It will be the lifting of equipment like air conditioning units and that sort of thing. Companionway ladder, 1500 by 750, and then the 2.2 by 750. This obviously difference in sizes we'll see when we look at companionway ladders. The reason why we've got the different lengths to enable the headroom for a companionway ladder to be suited. And then we look at stairway access, so 2.5 meter, 3.3 meter, and 3.6 meters, varying lengths depending upon the height of your floor to ceiling to maintain the 2 meter headroom. This obviously the shorter the floor to ceiling, then the longer the access hatches you're likely to need to maintain that 2 meters headroom when we're coming up the stairs. Now, these are all standard sizes that over the years manufacturers have manufactured to suit the standard situations on site. Obviously, there's hundreds of other different options, and obviously bespoke products can be made to suit your particular project if that's what you're actually looking for. We talked about thermal break. Thermal break is important to prevent the conductive thermal loss. It separates the inside elements from the outside, acting as a barrier to reduce the heat conduction. So simply, the inside and the outside don't come together, so that there is no passing of the difference in temperature between the outside of the building to the inside and vice versa. So like we've had recently, the cold weather, without a thermal break, you would have found that you'd have got like quite a lot of condensation. Okay, so we'll look at the types of insulation. Polystyrene, it's a cheap insulation. Doesn't offer any fire resistance. It's not environmentally friendly production process, and it's very hard to dispose of. So it's not something that we would actually use. PIR board, as it's most known, highly efficient insulation material. It's not offered as standard with a fire resistant unit, but we'll look at that in a moment. Gives us a U value of 0.26, so it's a highly efficient insulation material to use on an access hatch. Mineral wool, it's a very efficient insulation material. It's fire resistant, so it's used within a fire rated product, and obviously it's made from natural and sustainable source. So it's quite a green product to use, and can be supplied as a no-cost option over the PIR board if that's what people are looking for. We talked about locking options, and you'll see here there's quite a few different options. The majority of people would tend to go for something like LO4, which allows you to use a padlock on the outside or on the inside, which tends to suit most people's situations these days. There's also the options of European deadlocks, so you can either have it operating from the inside or the outside only, or using the key from both sides, which obviously that will be dependent upon how you're going to actually use the access hatch. Once we're up and we're looking to get out of the access hatch, we maybe need to look at different ways that we're going to assist in that. First of all, we see the safety guard system. This is a framework, a guarding system that bolts to the unit itself. It comes with a sprung-loaded gate, so you would actually come up the ladder, exit through the gate. The gate would close behind you, and it's just a method of making people aware that there is a hole in the roof there, an aperture in the roof that they maybe need to be aware of. Big advantage, obviously, there's no penetration through the roof, so there isn't any waterproofing issues. Second option would be a fixed external handhold, again bolted to the unit. You've got a handhold, it's there all the time as in the safety guard. gives you a bit of assistance to get in and out onto the ladder. And finally, we see the ladder up post. The ladder up post bolts to the ladder. It will bolt to any ladder that's on site. It's sprung loaded, so as you come to the top of the ladder, you release the catch. The pole locks into position, enables you to maintain 4 points of contact once you've opened the lid. And obviously you can then get 2 feet on the top rung of the ladder as well, which to me, it makes life a lot easier when it comes to getting back into the access hatch, rather than trying to get on your hands and knees to find where the actual ladder is. So it's a lot easier. Once you go down, you release the handle and it drops down back behind the ladder. Dust testing and water tightness IP66. This basically is just showing you the rig of how it's tested. Basically, it's put on a rig. You shoot as much water at it as you can from the different angles. It's then opened up, and obviously, if it's dry inside, then it passes the test. It's also tested for resistance to wind loads, which, yeah, obviously, you know, if you've got a certain wind load, you're not going to be going up onto the roof. So these have been tested well within the realms of anybody needing to go up onto the roof and different wind speeds. Shorespan, earlier on this year, we launched solar-powered roof access hatches. The hatch, when it's fitted on the roof, has a 20-watt semi-flexible panel. It's a highly efficient crystalline solar panel that ensures it operates in all weather conditions. The panel actually comes with quite a long lead, so you don't necessarily have to fit it to the lid of the access hatch. So if your access hatch is in, say, a shaded part of the roof, you can actually put the solar panel in an area where it's going to get more sunlight, more daylight. The energy then, as you see, is stored in a concealed battery, which is served within the upstand, and it has a wireless remote control. The big advantage is obviously it's a plug and play type system, so there isn't any need for electricians or anybody like that. You can just screw it down, fasten it into place, and away you go. On a charge, under test, it will open the unit around about 40 to 50 times, which, bearing in mind a roof access hatch, if it's open twice a day, is quite a high usage. So you'll tend to find that the solar is going to give you more than enough power for your requirement. So here we've got a video. So we'll have a look at some bespoke roof access hatches, sorts of areas, and this you'll see is quite a large access hatch on the roof, which allows materials to go in and out of the building. Here we have a 2-hour fire rated access hatch, electrically operating. Kielder Observatory here, these were some doors that were designed so that the telescope was in a wooden box rather than a dome, to be in keeping with the forest area that it was in. A double leaf hydraulic roof access hatch. Dubai International Airport, this is a fire rated hatch as well. And this is a 4-hour fire rated gas assisted roof access hatch for Hong Kong Airport. You'll see for 4-hour fire rating, it's a very, very chunky product. These are fire exits from an underground car park in Sweden. So if there's a fire, these are activated and they provide an access stair and a safe way out of the car park and obviously back up onto the street. So we've looked at standard roof access hatches. So now let's have a look at the design and specifying of glazed products. Glass has become far more popular in the last few years, and as it's become more popular, prices have become far more competitive. Few things we need to look at is the sorts of glass that you want. What specification are you looking at? Are we looking at glass that you maybe need to walk on? What sort of effects are you looking at? Self-cleaning glass, smoked glass, opaque glass? And do you require anything special, as in any security options that you may need, anything like that? So these can all be designed into a glazed unit, even with a glazed exit on the end. So lots of different options and availability there. I think, as you hopefully agree, that it's very aesthetically pleasing from the inside. The inside can be a different colour to the outside. The big advantage is we get asked quite a lot, you know, how big a glass glazed unit can you actually make? Well, with this option, obviously you've got the 3.8 meters in the length, but obviously you can then add as many units along the length as you require. So you can make quite a very long corridor that offers a lot of natural daylight into the building. The options for the openings can be as you require, so they can all open, every other one could open, or maybe none of them open, and they can also open for ventilation if that's what you're looking for. So quite a nice option if you're looking to get some natural daylight and ventilation into the centre of a building. We're now going to have a look at the design and the specification of sliding access, which you may not have considered in the past, but obviously sliding access panel access doors are have their place. And here we see two types of option. On the first side, we've got telescopic. So this opens up on a similar sort of system to, say, drawer runners at home in your kitchen, up to about 1 meter. And then anything over that, you would need to go to the fixed rail. The fixed rail, as you see, obviously you've got to allow for the rails to be fixed to the roof to support the lid. But what it does do, it means that you can actually get quite a large access hatch on a roof. If the roof is a very high roof, you've got high wind loads, things like that, then you've not got an actual lid that's opening and creating like a kite in the sky. Also, you maybe have an issue with the total height of the building, and if this is going to be opened on a regular basis, it may not be suitable, in which case the fixed rail, the sliding option is maybe for you. Can also be used as a smoke ventilator. So it's got quite a lot of options there for you. So here we'll see some bespoke sliding hatches. This is another option, which is the glazed sliding over roof access hatch. So half slides and half stays into position. Here we see the sort of size, 4.6 meters by nearly 2 meters, which was a 7-meter free flow smoke ventilator. You wouldn't want that sort of size unit opening up into the air on a tall building. Sliding hatch, and here we see obviously 6 meters by 4 meters. Again, you wouldn't want that opening up because of the wind loads that it would take. Ideal for biomass in these sorts of places so that it can slide back. You've not got any lids in the way, so it makes delivery of biomass and that sort of thing easier. And here's one that we made for the United States military. So we've looked at roof access hatches, the different options, the different sizes, and now we'll have a look at the designing and specification of smoke vents in relation to EN 12101. So what the importance of smoke ventilators to ensure safe escape for the occupants, to create a smoke-free area for the occupants and the firefighters. If you can escape a building under your own steam, then you are more likely to survive the fire than waiting for somebody to come and rescue you. It helps the fire to be tackled in the early stages, because once the people are out, it gives the fire brigade an earlier opportunity to put the fire out. Helps to minimise the internal smoke damage. And a point that the majority of fire deaths are due to the smoke and gas that's produced by the fire. If you're in a building fire, you're more likely you will die before you actually see the heat and feel the flames of the fire. Here we see this is a mock-up of a fire that happened in Scandinavia in a nightclub, and we're just going to see how the smoke penetrates and fills the space there. While we're doing that, we'll have a look at the symptoms in parts per million of carbon monoxide on the body. Where you're working today, there's probably a 50 particles per million concentration. 200 will give you a headache after 2 to 3 hours of exposure. 500 will give you hallucinations, 30 to 120 minutes. 1000 will give you motion impairment, death in 1 to 2 hours. 1500 death in about an hour. And 8,000 particles per million would give you sudden death. Now we're in this nightclub. Obviously, people have had a drink. You're probably with a group of friends. You're all chatting away. You don't know the room. You don't know the building. Obviously, the fact that it's a nightclub, it's going to have lots of combustible materials and plastics and things that's going to create a lot of smoke. And as we see now, a minute in, you may be for the first 30 seconds, don't even realise that there's a fire going on in the room. And as you'll see, at 1.5 minutes, the room is more or less fully engulfed with smoke. So you'd find it very difficult to breathe. And unfortunately, people lost their lives in that fire. So smoke ventilators. Regarding 12101, smoke ventilators have to be tested, and that will give you a coefficient of discharge, 1 meter free square, 1 meter free vent area. Doesn't mean a meter by a meter, because unfortunately smoke doesn't go around corners, it funnels, in which case a meter by a meter gives you 0.68 of a square meter. So 1260 by 1260 gives you 1 meter of free vent area. So that information will be on your unit. Also, the wind loading that the unit will take. So obviously, if you're going on a very high building, you maybe need to take that into consideration. Reliability, it will tell you how many times it's been opened and closed. Resistance to heat, that will tell you whether the unit will, the sort of temperatures that it will operate at. So it will still operate after 30 minutes at whatever the temperature the unit has been tested at. Snow load, that's obviously more important in some areas than others. So will it still open if there's a 6 inches of snow on the lid? Dual purpose ventilator, are you going to use it for dual purpose? In which case you can use it for access, which we'll look at in a short while. So again, you need to check that as the access hatch being the ventilator being tested for that. And also the low ambient temperatures. So the areas you're working in, you know, it will tell you that it opens and closes at -20 or -30 degrees, which obviously will be important if you're working in a very cold climate. Once you've done that, the unit gets a CE mark, which is mandatory. So at this moment in time, all smoke ventilators must have a CE mark. And from January of 2025, you will also need to have the UKCA mark, which is the new UK version. The Shorespan products have been tested to that and have passed. And obviously, you may think 2025 is a long way away. But if you're working on a building at the moment that's maybe not going to come out of the ground until second, third quarter of next year, by the time you get up to the roof, you're going to be into 2025. So it's important, and we're getting asked this question a lot now about UK CA mark product. We talked about using your smoke ventilator for access. So because they have a single actuator, it can be offset. So as you see in the center there, the actuator is offset, which allows you to have an area of about 1220 by a meter, which means, as you see on the right-hand side, you can use a fixed access ladder to get up onto the roof. The advantage of this means you probably don't, for infrequent use, you don't need to put a roof access hatch somewhere else on the building. And the other point is that it means that the roof, the smoke ventilator is being used for something other than the smoke ventilator. Because the smoke ventilator is a little bit like your car insurance, you're buying it, putting it there, hoping never to use it. So because the fact that you're opening it to use it for access up onto the roof, it's just another check that obviously it's operational and working. We can manufacture bespoke size smoke ventilators. So you'll see with an insulated lid tested 3 meters by 1.8 meters. Double glazed lids 3 meters to 1400. Domes, polycarbonate domes 1800 by 1800. And the XE vent, as you see there, is a 2-in-1 solution. If you've got a staircase and an access hatch up onto the roof, and you also need a smoke ventilator, then by using the one opening on the roof, you can actually have the access hatch, which we'd use on your daily basis, and your smoke ventilator on the end attached, which would open automatically in the case of a fire in the building. We'll have a look now at the typical installation of a smoke ventilator. You'll see on the top of the staircase here, it's positioned in the stairwell. So at the top of the staircase, you've got the blue smoke ventilator on the top. You'll also see that the lid opens to 140 degrees. This is always thought that when they were 90 degrees, the smoke could hit the lid and push the smoke back down into the building. So it doesn't matter now, whichever way the wind is blowing, the lid is not going to be affected by that. So the smoke ventilator is positioned on the roof, 1 meter free vent area, 1260 by 1260. Then that's connected up to a control panel. Inside the control panel are 2 12-volt batteries. So the unit actually works up to 24 volts, so it's quite safe to work on. The 2 batteries are there for a reason. That is to give you a battery backup, and that gives you a 72-hour battery backup, which means should the building lose its power due to the fire, or there's a power cut or some other issue, then you've got 72 hours of safety there, knowing that it will operate under its own steam. The big advantage of this system is it's always on. Nobody has to switch it on or off like you would do a burglar alarm. It's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The control panel is then connected up to, as we see here, a smoke detector, which means that that staircase then is totally independent of any other of your fire evacuation systems. Now, it can also be, if required, connected up to the building management system, which that gives you the control to decide when it opens and under what circumstances it opens. But with a smoke detector only on that unit, that makes that staircase independent and a safe means of escape in the case of a fire. On the ground floor, you have a fireman's switch. The fireman's switch is by the door, so the fire brigade on arrival can check it, see whether the vent is open or whether it's closed, and open or close it depending upon what they're looking and they want to do. We talked about using the smoke ventilator for access up onto the roof. So here we see a ventilation switch, or it could be a keyed switch of any sort, or a toggle switch, whatever you require, which allows you to open and close it for your access up onto the roof. This also is a convenient method for whoever is running the building, who's going to have to open it on a fairly regular basis and sign it off. It's an easier method for them to open and close it without them having to go right the way back down to the fireman's switch to operate it. So for the cost of a switch, it's quite an easy fix. So we've looked at roof access hatches, the different options we've got, the glazing options, sliding options. And now we're going to have a look at the design and specifying of safe ladder access up to the roof access. So safe ladder options, there's 4 options really. So the first one, the most simple, would be a fixed vertical ladder. Fixed vertical ladder is ideal for infrequent use. You know, if you're going up there 3 or 4 times a day, you possibly wouldn't want to use the ladder. You'd want an easier method of getting up onto the roof. And a fixed vertical ladder is only really for personnel use. You shouldn't be taking any equipment up with you via the ladder. Secondly, we've got the companionway ladder, or ship stair as it's sometimes called. Ideal for maintenance and for regular use. You've got handrails, and obviously you've got steps to go up. You'll also see you need a slightly larger roof access hatch for that, and we'll look at that in a few moments. Then we have the retractable ladder, ideal for light infrequent use, maybe schools, colleges, places like this where you possibly don't want people to know that there is access up onto the roof. Stores away can have a door underneath of it, used more frequently these days. And the fourth option, which we don't show here, would be a standard staircase, which would go up to the roof with a large roof access hatch on the top, making sure that you maintain a 2-meter headroom. So when we look at fixed vertical ladders, we'll look on the left-hand side first. This is a fixed vertical ladder that's going up on the outside of the building, or maybe going up to a mezzanine or a platform, something like that. So you'll see that the handrails are taken up and then would connect up with the handrail system on the roof or wherever it is that you're actually going up. This drawing would tell me that this ladder is greater than 3 meters. Situation is any ladder over 3 meters needs to have some method of fall protection, and with this you've got the safety cage. You could use a man-safe system if that's what you're looking for. The cage, as you see, starts up to around about 3 meters. Normally will start somewhere between 2.4 and 3 meters, depending upon the length of your ladder. Obviously, if you've got a short ladder, the cage will start a little bit lower down, so it's aesthetically pleasing. You'll see the ladder is positioned around about 230 mil from the face of the ladder, so that you can actually get a full foot on the serrated rungs. They give you an improved grip and obviously make it safer to use the ladder. The maximum climb height for a fixed vertical ladder is 10 meters. And 10 meters is quite a long way if you're pulling yourself up, because you're going vertically up the ladder. So it's quite a strenuous climb. Anything over 10 meters, then you will be restricted to 6-meter sections. So if you were going to go up 11 meters, say, then you'd either have a 5.5 or a 6-meter ladder, then a platform, and then a 5.5-meter ladder to go up. So 24 meters, you'd have 6 platform, 6 platform, 6 platform, until you get up to where you want to be. On the right-hand side, we show a fixed vertical ladder going up into the inside of an access hatch. So what you can do is when measuring, you can actually take the ladder up 200 millimeters inside the access hatch. As you remember, the upstand is 300 millimeters. So your ladder can go up, and obviously that makes life a lot easier when it comes to getting off the ladder. You're a lot closer to the actual rim of the access hatch for escaping. The majority of fixed vertical ladders these days are manufactured out of aluminium. Simple reason is obviously they're a lot easier to fix, they're a lot easier to move about. You know, 2 guys can fit a 6-meter aluminium ladder far easier than a steel or a galvanized steel ladder. Once we've got our fixed vertical ladder, we maybe want to consider security. A few options here that's available. retractable lower section. So the lower section of the ladder rides up and can be locked into position. We then have a padlockable ladder guard, so that's bolted onto the ladder, which comes around and can be padlocked to secure the ladder from the ground. And then we have the wall mounted, so it's a similar sort of action. It's just bolted to the walls. These can also have a lid on the top, which means once they're closed, they can block off the underside of the cage, so people can't maybe pull themselves up the cage if they try. Companionway ladders. Obviously, we have a few regulations regarding companionway ladders and things to look at. First of all, a maximum climb height for a companionway ladder is 3 meters. You'll see there, 3 meters rise is maximum. If you are going over 3 meters, then you need to incorporate a platform. So if it was, say, a 4.5 meter, you go at 1.5 meters platform and then up a 3 meter section of ladder. You'll see how the handrail, both sides, will then connect up to whatever it is you've got either on your roof, or it would terminate if you were going through an access hatch. Your opening obviously is dictated by the clearance, and as you'll see there, unlike head clearance with a staircase, with a companionway ladder, it's a 1200mm clearance, but that clearance is from the face of the ladder, so it's a line that corresponds with the face of the companionway ladder up through the building. Now on the right hand side here, we'll see a little graph and a little animation at the bottom there. The issue you have is quite often is when you're on the roof, the difference between the finished roof level and the ceiling level inside the building can vary massively. So the issue that we've got is to maintain that 1200mm, the greater the void in the ceiling, then the bigger the access hatch required. So as you'll see there, if you've got a 1200mm void, then you're looking at 2 meters and 84, so you'd probably be looking at a 2.1 access hatch to gain it. If you've only got 200mm, then you'd be looking at your 1664, so you'd be looking at a 1700, 1650 size unit. So that graph is on the website, and maybe anybody will assist you with that in the office if you do have any questions about that. So very important just to bear in mind that 1200 clearance and the headroom when we're going through a void in the ceiling. Retractable ladders. Retractable ladders, these are these days, similar to the sort of things you've maybe seen at home for sale to go into your loft. Commercial wise, they're a lot stronger than the sort of things you've seen in DIY stores. These would take a loading or tester to a loading of 260 kilograms, so quite a strong and strengthy unit. There is no British standard that refers to a retractable loft ladder, so we use EN 14975, which is an option there. You need to allow 640mm in depth in the ceiling void, or 740mm if you're using a ceiling panel for ladder storage. So as there you see on the right hand side, when the ladder is stored away, it sits in slightly an upright position to store all the springs and obviously the handrail as well. So 640mm, 740mm if you're looking to put a ceiling panel underneath of it so that it totally disappears. Ladders, as we see back on the left hand side, can only be attached to the ceiling level, so any additional step may be required. So you see that's got a couple of additional steps on there. Alternatively, we do manufacture a backboard which has got the additional steps on it, and also some handrails, and it comes with the ladder attached, so you'd fix that into position, which would make life a little bit easier to get in and out. A retractable ladder doesn't have to conform to any British standard regarding height. So unlike the regulations we've seen with fixed vertical ladders, 6 meters, 10 meters, companionway ladders, 3 meters, there is no British standard for these. Minimum aperture would be 650 by 900, but obviously, as you can imagine, the longer the ladder is, the more space you're going to need to operate it. So design stage, we will be able to keep the minimum size of unit that you would require, but obviously trying to keep within the standard sizes that we've already discussed earlier in the presentation. From Shorespan's point of view, we manufacture from 2.5 to 4.6 meters. The reason for that being is we don't consider any 4.6 meters to be a safe option really to be using this type of ladder. So anything up to 4.6 meters, you're okay. Anything over that, then really we would recommend that you try and look for an alternative solution of maybe a companionway ladder, or if you're not using it on a regular basis, a fixed vertical ladder. So we've excuse me there. We've looked at roof access hatches, we've looked at smoke vents, we've looked at how we're going to access these by the different types of ladder. And now we're going to look into the design and the specification of floor access doors. So as we see here, we've got quite a large floor access door. So a few of the questions that we need to ask: the sort of finish that you're looking for. Do you want something that's recessed to take an infill or an upstandard cover? So the sorts of infills that we can be looking at is, anything from a concrete finish to paving slabs, block pavers, all sorts of ceramics and things that are available these days, or it may be just vinyl or carpet. So it's important that at the design stage, the manufacturer would actually know the weight of the product that you're going to put in, the weight per square meter, any screed that you're going to want in, so that can be allowed within the depth of the recess that you may be looking for. Material finish. Obviously, these doors can be manufactured in aluminium, steel, or stainless steel. One of the next questions is going to be the sort of weight that you want these doors to take. So the question would be, obviously, the more weight that you want it to take, the more chances are something's going to be manufactured in steel rather than aluminium. Stainless steel, again, will be used where maybe food production, that sort of thing, or there's a high corrosive area that you're actually looking to put the door into. Operation methods, same as with the roof access hatches, manual, electric, or hydraulic. Manual for the smaller ones, or maybe a door that you're not going to open very often that's maybe indoors. Electrically operated seems to be the way forward these days. Most people want easy open and push button, or hydraulics. Hydraulics will allow you to open a bigger door with more ease. Also, there isn't the need for an electricity supply. So if it's out in the middle of nowhere or something like that, on a water treatment works or something that you possibly not got an electric supply to. Or some of these doors are actually designed to only be opened every 10, 15, and some I've known every 25 years, in which case the hydraulic system will suit the situation very well. We come to the big question now: what loading capacity do you require? And obviously that's a very, very important question. It's no use putting a door down that will only take a car if you then go to back a truck over it. The last few weeks we had a request for one in London where it's outside of a hotel, and they wanted to allow for the weight of a London fire engine when it was fully loaded with water, in which case, obviously, the design needs to take that into consideration. So like you see on the picture above, quite a lot of steel involved. So it's important that you know what your door is going to be used for, and you also know what sort of weight that you're expecting that door to achieve. Do you want any special finishes? So if you're just using a steel checker plate type finish, do you look for an anti-slip finish or something like that? Those options are all there for you at design stage. And we come back to the old questions, fire rating or acoustic properties. So are you looking for some sort of acoustic ceiling, or do you require a fire rating? You know, if you're obviously doing something underneath there that needs to protect either the top or to close it down to create a protected space. So those are the sort of questions that we need to be asking. And what about safety? Safety grids are available. These can operate automatically. So there is not the need for anybody to actually go down and open them. As you'll see in a few moments, these can just automatically come into place to create a safe environment. Here we see some flush door frame details, and you'll see heavy duty, medium duty, light duty. Every floor door tends to be bespoke and special to you, depending upon what you wanted to do. But the point of this slide really is to say that the floor RIBA also needs to include for the bracket on the back. So as you'll see there in the medium duty, you've got a 75mm bracket on the back that needs to be bolted down. So the rebate that's being formed maybe in the concrete needs to include for that, and quite often it tends to be overlooked. People look at the frame size. Your rebate also needs to allow for some adjustment in the vertical. So shims or something like that can be put underneath, because your concrete may not be truly level, and it allows the door to be positioned in a level. The channels of the door also allow for a drain coupling to be fitted. So anything that gets into that channel can then be drained away, because normally you've got some form of drainage system down in the basement or whatever it is the door is over. So just something to bear in mind regarding the actual fitting of the doors. We'll have a look at some bespoke floor hatches now. Here we see this is a hydraulic, 5 meters by 3.2. Nice little touch in a moment. You'll see it's got a personnel hatch as well, so they can actually use it without opening the main door. This is a heavy duty stainless steel floor hatch. This is Dubai Presidential Palace, and as you'll see there, that's a manually opening. And once we know the weight of material, then obviously we can design the springs and calibrate so that they actually open it easily. Talked about glass there, you saw the glass one. 5 meter by 5 meter, hydraulic biomass. Again, hydraulic enables you to open a lot larger access. Quirky one here, a bifold door. And here we see Heathrow Airport Terminal 3, 6 meters by 3.3 meters. We'll let this open, and then I'll note a few points too. So you'll see, first of all, that the support arm also is electrically operated, so that can lift and come out of the way, so that we've got a clear opening. A couple of points to note: you'll see that the security grids there automatically come up into place, so they lock into position, so you've got no issues with anybody having to try and get hold of them to lift them and put them into place. The other thing to notice with this floor door is that floor doors don't open to 90 degrees, they open to around about 80 degrees. So apart from knowing the weight of what you want to go over this door, you'll also need to know what the size is of whatever's going to go through. So like with London Transport and what have you, you've got electric units, things like that. that have got to go through. So if you know the size of that, we can then work back and give you the actual opening size required of the door, because 6 meters by 3.3 meters on the ground may only be 5.8 by 3 meters when you get up into the actual opening area at the top of the door. So it's quite important that we remember these, the opening sizes, the weight that you're looking to go through it, and the size of the product that you actually want to put through if it's a floor door. So in summary, as we go back over, specify the correct size at the start, whether it's a floor door or a roof access hatch. Make sure that the size of access hatch that you've got is correct for what you're looking to actually expect somebody to do when using that access hatch. Look at the correct safety and security options. Do you need to secure your ladder? How do you want to operate and lock the roof access hatch? Even it may not need locking. So these things all need to be considered. Specify the correct style of ladder. So as we've said, don't expect somebody to go up a 9-meter fixed vertical ladder carrying a tool bag. It's not going to be safe. It's not the correct way to do it. So the next option will be to use a companionway ladder, or maybe even a fixed stair. Ensure that you meet the required geometric areas and flow on smoke vents. That's important. 1 meter free square or 1.5 meter free square, or is it a geometric area? Check the drawings. Is it being designed with a geometric area? Considerations of glass, whether it's on the floor or on the roof. Glass is now option and is a competitive option if you're looking for something that's a bit more aesthetically pleasing. And floor hatches, we've looked at the main things there. What's going to go over it? What sort of weight are you expecting? What sort of finish are you looking for? And just bear in mind the fitting of it. And basically, it's going to be a bespoke product. So, final considerations. Seek advice as early in the design stage as possible. If we go out to site and there's an issue, I've been to places where, you know, at the 11th hour, they've realised there's an area of roof that they can't actually get to, and that's going to cause issues. So you then end up having to have a roof access hatch, which is at the end of a corridor, which has got a retractable ladder, whereas it could have gone into some back area with a fixed vertical ladder and been an easier use. So seek advice. That way you won't make the mistake and we won't have any issues on site. As we see here, a hatch is not just a square box on a roof. It could be a piece of art. As we say, this one is probably the highest roof access hatch in the world. 316 stainless steel submarine type hatch. And its use is to open it up and change the light bulb on the top of the tower so that the aeroplanes don't fly into it. So finally, think big, think bespoke. The only limit is your imagination. Here at Shorespan, we can basically manufacture anything that you're looking for within your imagination. The only issue may be the depth of your client's pockets. So I'll just say thank you there while we say thank you, and anybody comes up with any questions you may have. There's few pictures going of some of the projects that we've done around the world. As I say, for a company that's based in the West Midlands, we've worked in nearly all of the continents and on some of the biggest and most prestigious projects around the world. As we see here, Ferrari, all the World Cups, dark sky area up in Kielder Forest there. This is quite an interesting one. Westfield Shopping Centre in London. The idea was to be able to open up the floor and then to be able to lift heavy things like cars up onto the first floor to create and use sales areas. And here we see, seems a long time ago now, World Cup Stadium, units that have finished to match the surroundings and allow fittings to be fitted at a later date, so that once the lids are closed, fire rated roof access hatch in the school in America there. We've already seen the hydraulically opening. Smoke vents, Great London, Portland Street glazed. We're doing a lot more glazed opening access hatches now onto roofs, where roof gardens are being created and the space is being utilised more and more. I think when I watched the London Marathon, you can't believe how many roof gardens there are now in London. Antarctic Research Station. So I think you'll agree, we've worked on some very prestigious projects around the world and can design and manufacture in the UK to suit your projects. So as we see there, finally, the Presidential Palace. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you found that informative, and I'll take you back to our host.
Thank you, Stan. That's a great presentation. We do have a few questions in the chat. Are there any risks around power cuts to smoke vent control systems?
No, because the batteries are on trickle charge. So basically the batteries trickle charge all the time. Once the power goes off, they'll operate for 72 hours. So you'd have thought within 72 hours a power cut would have been sorted, or in a commercial building, some other form of power provided. They are serviced once a year, and part of that servicing is to check that they open and close at the correct speed. And the batteries are also checked to make sure they've got at least 18 months of power left in them. The batteries normally last between 4 to 6 years, something like that, and then the batteries will be replaced. But just one thing with the batteries, what you must ensure is that the batteries don't decharge, because if you run the battery flat, then the batteries have to be replaced, or a special battery that are made to be on a trickle charge.
Thank you. Would any floor access hatches be suitable for a basement light well combined emergency exit?
You could use them because they could be controlled by smoke detectors, exactly the same as you would use a smoke ventilator. But normally you would want maybe some sort of manual system as well to escape from underground.
Thank you. What is the minimum battery pack required?
The minimum battery pack?
Yes.
In what? Do we know what? Obviously, the batteries come automatically within the control panel. So those batteries are, and the size of the control panels are regulated against the size of the access hatch or the size of the smoke vent. So obviously, the bigger the hatch, the bigger the smoke vent, then the more power the actuator is going to need. So a more powerful control panel and batteries will be required. But that would all come out at design stage.
Thank you. Last question. Do you charge a design fee, or do you underwrite your designs?
No, we don't charge a design fee. Basically, we will come out to site. We will work with the architects or whoever. We have our own drawing office, our own design centre, where all this is put together. So what tends to happen is the designer and the architect will maybe start and talk and pass things, so it avoids going through a third party of the sales. Then we would come up with drawings for approval, and at that point, then we would tend to, before we come up with the final drawings, we would tend to ask for some sort of commitment to the project going forward, which normally is at the very last, the last hurdle.
Thank you. Oh, we've got one more question. Is the smoke control unit at the top of the stairs required, as I do not normally see one?
It doesn't have to be at the top of the stairs. They can be up to around about 20-30 meters away. There must be one somewhere. Anything, because it works at 24 volts, anything over 30 meters, then you get a voltage drop, so it's not recommended. So if, let's say, for example, you've got a 30-meter long building, you could have a cupboard in the middle of the building so that the cables go 15 meters in each direction. But the majority of times the control panel is fitted somewhere nearby, mainly for ease of somebody coming to actually find it to service it. Because that's another big issue with smoke vents, that there's so many smoke vents out there, maybe open and closed, but they're not being serviced as per they should be. I mean, I've come across many a building where the smoke vents and the control panels have not been tested for 5, 6, 7 years, which is you know, really poor state of management of a building.
Thank you. That was the last one. I'd like to thank you, Stan, and everyone who has joined us this morning. Just to remind you that this session has been recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel soon, which can be shared with your colleagues. So with that, I'll wrap up and thank you again for your time, and we'll hopefully see you online in the next month.